beyond witches and wizards is the root cause of health problem of many in Africa. Seek professional advice concerning that your health matter.
Join Dr. Save a Life Foundation.
You and Your Health with Dr. Richard Okoye.
You're listening to Today 95.1 FM. Joining me this morning, I have with me Dr. Richard Okoye, President of Doctors Save a Life Foundation. Dr. Richard Okoye, good morning.
Good morning.
I am particularly impressed by your, shall I say, I don't know if it's your personal ambition or it's something that is driven by your foundation, and which is, shall I say, stall the rate in which the life expectancy in Nigeria continues to drop. You have been championing that personally, I know, and it has been something that has been like a mission statement for your establishment. I particularly wanted to have it this morning because if we've been looking at the life expectancy rate in Nigeria, you'll find that the numbers are so drastic. It keeps depressing me each time I have to look at it. And if we want to consider that, I think we can also look at the fact that the rate of maternal mortality and neonatal deaths in Nigeria is also something that needs one to be worried about. Is this something that is also in line when we're looking at maternal mortality and neonatal deaths? Is this something that you're also passionate about, and is this something that you're also championing to see a difference in?
Yeah, basically, I put up this on a very strong appreciation, as it were, because it's an area that must have to be addressed if there will be anything that has to do with hope in terms of Nigerian life expectancy. As we had a program in Los Angeles 2019, where we analyzed the life expectancy of all of the countries. A number of countries today have been able to achieve as much as 89 years, whereas Nigerian life expectancy of 55 being grouped among the world top countries. Wow. Like Afghanistan and other. So it's quite depressing, So when I came in, I say, hi, this cannot just be allowed to continue. So that's why we have a vision that by the year 2025, Nigerian life expectancy will move from 55 years to 70 years. And how we intend to achieve this is just like this platform you have created. Being able to make our people understand what the doctors know, taking certain decisions on their behalf which they are not well informed. And by reason of that not being well informed about it, they become victim of quackeries. A lot of merchants out there telling them all manner of things, and I think that's the fundamental reason for the effort we have been able to put up so far. Additionally, when you look at the statistics also, in terms of the actual causes of death in Nigeria, and also what brought us to that deplorable state of 55, you find out that it has more to do with maternal, neonatal, and under 5 mortality. So that's why this is a very, very wonderful opportunity that everyone has to, when a opportunity like this, I usually see it that it's not just because you have your babies or you don't have need of children. We have sisters, we have loved ones, we have even our children that will get married tomorrow, repeating the same ugly scenario, So at this particular point in time, whenever we have a opportunity like this, I call on everybody to reach out to the loved ones, everyone, link them up. Like this program right now, I'm very much optimistic I will do well to a number of people.
Because with the fact that if you look at the deplorable rates, you find out that it is depressing. And I found that a lot of it is also hinged on ignorance. What we don't know has aided having these ugly numbers. So the station, Today FM, felt it was important that we have a platform where we enlighten people. And we obviously checked. There's nobody else we would rather have who will help break this down for us other than yourself, Dr. Richard Okoye. So it's imperative that we have as many people, and we have been speaking about this all throughout the week, to ensure that a lot of people understand what will be happening today and then are tuned in to at least learn why we have this deplorable numbers when you look at life expectancy and the misinformation that they have received over the years, and perhaps begin to right certain wrongs. I'm going to narrow this down real quickly so we get to some of the issues, and I'm going to start with looking at maternal mortality. One of the few reasons I would think that we have these numbers has been based on our belief system. Our belief system has impeded a lot in, decreasing these numbers as we have. I'll give you a quick example. Where you have a case of a lady who is about to give birth, is in the hospital, and has maybe a suggestion, or shall I say, an insight from the doctor who says there are issues that we have here, so we have to have a cesarean birth. They'll have to connect with somebody else, maybe their spiritual leader. Let me just use Christianity, for example. They say, I need to call my pastor first before I can get permission to do this. And sometimes you'll get pastors who will say, oh no, don't allow them to do that. This is the work of the devil, that you must give birth like a Hebrew woman, continue, and you will tarry through. We've seen a lot of women who have gone through that particular process. How much knowledge can you shed on this here to disabuse the minds of a lot of people who say, I need to have my spiritual leader guarantee me this before I can allow a doctor perform his duties?
Yeah, it's very unfortunate, and I think it's the greatest calamity we have in the country today. Spiritualization of our health condition is the reason why we are talking about infrastructure first. But when the people don't have the knowledge, even if you have all the tools, you don't have the knowledge. You can't apply it in that. I remember one occasion in Isubu, when the then governor, they renovated the hospitals, they have provided the instruments, surgical instruments, and some things there. When we went for an outreach one of the days, I saw a lady using the surgical scissors to plait hair. That is to cut hair, because he doesn't understand why it is so. So today you have a lot of misinformation, and unfortunately coming from the background of our religion. I have said it over and over again. There is nothing written in the Bible called Hebrew woman delivery. A lot of us today, even as elites, just swallow that very concept, hook, line, and sinker, without ever reading that portion. Only that we've gone to the church and we were told, you have to deliver like a Hebrew woman. Yeah. And we carry that just because the man said you have to deliver, and nobody cares, to be in position to read. And I'm today going to let us know that there's nothing in the Bible at all called Hebrew woman delivery. How did it come about?
Tell us.
It happened that a couple of years back, I have a woman that, had this assisted reproductive technology, this IVF. And eventually, at the age of 43 or 44 then, she got pregnant. And it was the first pregnancy in 16 years of marriage. And lo and behold, at the point of delivery, because of being precious baby, of course, also what is called contracted pelvis was also, and this woman was advised, you have to deliver by CS. He said, it's not my portion, I reject it. And unfortunately, someone was on call with her, perhaps a pastor or whoever, calling her, so you must deliver like a Hebrew woman. And the woman was saying, no, God will not share his glory. Nobody is contesting God's glory, for Christ's sake. She continued on that. The husband even came and begged and said, baby, we waited for this for a while. Let's have this little baby. He said, nobody, I will deliver like a Hebrew woman. Glory must go to God. After a long appeal, unfortunately, the heartbeat of the baby started dropping. When the heartbeat of the baby started dropping, it became a worry. More plead, more distant, but someone was still praying on phone with her. And eventually the heartbeat of the baby went off. The baby died in the womb. Painful as it were, she later was still had to go back for cesarean section when they attempted to bring it out, couldn't. And then she now was delivered a baby dead and delivered to her. So that actually is not what somebody should just begin to criticize or whatever. But what is most critical is that I started asking God, does it mean that the faith your people are expressing towards your war, does it mean that you no longer respond to that
faith.
This woman stood in the war and believed that she will deliver like a Hebrew woman, as it were, and the contrary happened? I got a message. He said, go back and read that scripture. And what I saw is what I want to reveal to us now. And I want everybody, please pick your Bible or your phone, because let it not be that my phone may have been talking something in line with my own personal narrative. If you look at the book of that very issue of Hebrew woman, because they usually read one verse of it and share it, and nobody cares to be in position to ask for that question. I want you to read so that it will not be the one I have here. The book is in the book of Exodus 1 verse 15 down to 19. Are you there?
Yes.
Please, I want you to read it. Let's just be able to assimilate and deliver thousands of women out there right now in that bondage already.
Okay, so you said 15 to 19.
Yeah.
So from Exodus 1:15, it says, I'm reading from the New International Version. The king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, whose names were Sapphira and Puah, when you are helping the Hebrew women during childbirth on the delivery stool, if you see that the baby is a boy, kill him. But if it is a girl, let her live.
Okay. You see, I want us to get that very picture. This is an instruction given by Pharaoh to the midwives that are delivering these women. They were not delivering on their own. All right. They said, when you see them delivering, and on the point of that delivery, if it be a son, you should kill. If you be a daughter, you can allow, just to decrease the numerical strength of the people of Israel. And get this clear: before a baby will be known for you to be sure that this baby is a boy
or a girl,
you must deliver the baby fully, because most of the babies come with their head. So you will not be able to do until you deliver and then check the genitals. The genitals, to know whether it's a boy or girl. All right. These women were delivering them. They were not delivering themselves. Now look at the next verse.
The midwives, however, feared God and did not do what the king of Egypt had told them to do, and they let the boys live.
Beautiful. They didn't do. God put his fear in the heart of these women, just to confirm his word in the book of Job 5 verse 18. He said he frustrated the devices of the crafty, that their hands cannot perform the enterprise. So he put that very fear in them and made them not to do that. He said, why should we kill these children? And that is how Moses was saved. Otherwise, Moses would have been slaughtered as well. So they will deliver and hide them. They deliver and hide them. Now, see what happened as Pharaoh got to know about that.
In 18, then the king of Egypt summoned the midwives and asked them, why have you done this? Why have you let the boys leave? Verse 19.
Correct.
The midwives answered Pharaoh, Hebrew women are not like Egyptian women. They are vigorous and give birth before the midwives arrive.
Okay. This is actually where the bulk of the deception has been all this while. He said that, the Pharaoh called them and said, hey, how dare you that I gave you instruction, you didn't do that? If these women open their mouth to say, no, Pharaoh, we didn't want to obey you, that's why we decided to save them, he will wipe them off, including their families. So in the course of self-defense, the women say, no, king, we didn't do that. Honestly, the fact is that the women were smarter, more vigorous, that even before we arrived, they had already delivered. It is not true at all. The Bible had already told us that they deliver and saved them. But unfortunately, this is the portion that have killed thousands of babies, thousands of women for the ages. It is a grammatical aberration we acquired, That's why Jeremiah 16 verse 19 said, our fathers have inherited lies, vanity, and things wherein there is no profit. Now, if you look at this, a number of occasions you see people in the churches will now share testimony that, praise the Lord, I went to a hospital. The doctor said that I have to deliver, and I say it's not my portion, I reject it. And when the doctor was saying, before you know, baby came up, praise the Lord. That is incomplete testimony. Very, very incomplete. As we go in here, you will get to know that those testimony, majority of them are halfway, because the worst is yet to happen. And those that died in the course of that, they will not come to the altar. No, they are silent in the grave. Those that lost their babies will not come to the altar to share testimony. They will blame the doctors or blame the devil. It is very easy. When certain things happen, we channel our mind to devil and all that. Nobody takes responsibility. It makes it that, it's because of the attack, it's because of one demon or the other. If those demons are so powerful, then why is God there for us? What is the God there? There is to address those spiritual problems. So indeed, trying to use those demons and attack to explain away, the time has come for such to end. That's what is called analytical reasoning. This thing I've been doing all this while, is it really working? We have to begin to be getting sincere to ourselves.
That's key for me when you said we have to engage analytical thinking. I want to ask at this point, then what causes one to go for a cesarean section if indeed there is a vaginal birth, and perhaps that is the natural way? I don't want to say natural or unnatural, but that is the common way, so to say.
Yeah.
So then what causes one to go for a cesarean birth? Maybe if we understand this better, we will accept it as a way to give birth.
Yeah, very interesting. When you look at the aspect that has to do with delivery, women are different, and a lot, which by the grace of God, time gives us the opportunity, we explore a lot of them. Number one is that there's what is called pelvic bone.
Okay.
This very pelvic bone, they have different shapes. A woman should be able to have what is called gynecopelvic. This gynecopelvic is more roomy compared to the android pelvic of a man that is a little bit contracted. All right, and there are other ones, platypus and all the rest, which are for academic purpose, not really beneficial to our people today. So, but this a woman should have that very gynecopelvic, that when a doctor perform what is called pelvic assessment, so that's birth canal. Yeah. All right. And after looking at it, it will say that this woman, like a man, has contracted pelvic, that the passage that the baby will come out is too narrow because a lot of factors there. So the doctor will now look at the inlet, look at the cavity, look at the outlet, and he will say that this pelvic is contracted, or that this pelvic is borderline, even though it's subjectory until labor comes. So, but the fact is that when these factors are in place, if a woman has a narrow pelvic and he has a big baby, and you are telling the woman, push, you must deliver like a Hebrew woman, what do you expect? Think about this, my head now. My mom said, I'm inside my mom. I will say, push. You see that I died there, or my mom, both of us will settle ourselves there. You get that? So when there is what is called cephalopathy disproportion, that the head of this baby vis-a-vis the way he will pass is not, yes, definitely there will be a problem. All right? So some people will now go into that labor. You see people laboring for days, as it were. Do you understand? So on the other hand, you look at also, there are a lot of things. There's what is called placenta previa. Usually the placenta is where the baby receive blood, also receive food, receive oxygen. It's usually at the back end, the frontal area of the womb, where the baby coming out through the canal, through the cervix, should be free. But sometimes this very placenta may not be located lower segment where the baby is supposed to come out. It is on that accord.
So blocking the canal, so to say.
Blocking, yes. On that accord, the doctor will call it that this is even a contraindication What do you mean contraindication? You should not even do vaginal or pelvic examination on the woman, because you may put your hand and puncture the blood back. That woman will bleed. And a woman will have this condition. Doctor will tell him, and he say, no, I must deliver like a Hebrew woman. She is signing a death sentence. And somebody will be there talking to the person, you must deliver like a Hebrew woman. And at the end of the day, this woman will bleed to death. Nobody will be held responsible, because devil has already taken a position whereby he absorbed every blame. All right. So when there is that condition, it is an indication for cesarean section. Nevertheless, it is not something that may happen in subsequent pregnancy, because in a number of occasions, it may not happen again. It's just like an unfortunate location for that very pregnancy. Now, you look further. In a situation where the health of this woman is being threatened, maybe in the case of what is called hypertension in pregnancy, like pregnancy-induced hypertension, like all the preeclampsia, where the protein is in the urine, the BP is going up, and this woman is at the point of death. If nothing is being done, and at that very point in time, you will not say, this woman, no, you must continue, this will not happen. At that time, the doctor may look and say, hey, I'm here for you. We have been able to get this on because it's a progressive disease. Manage it to the point of managing. Can't we have this baby? That's also when we may have a premature or a preterm delivery. All right. Now, you go a little further also. When a baby is being delivered, it is the doctors, why you came to the hospital. He say, doctor, please see on my behalf professionally. And the monitoring, now today there's a lot of technology that have made available to monitor the heartbeat and how the baby is doing, like CTGs and the rest. So if the doctor now begin to monitor this and discover, because labor is a stressful condition, it's a stressful process, a lot of things, is a lot of stress on the baby, and the doctor will now watch out this baby, and the heartbeat or the baby is becoming to be being in distress. He may say, hi, we need to get this baby out. And somebody will say, no. I have an occasion where a woman that the baby's heartbeat was already going, and he called spiritual leader, don't want to mention pastor or bishop or whoever. He called the spiritual, the president said nobody should do something until I arrive. Arrive? What are you coming to do? Transfer your prayers if you are praying. So the woman will say, until my pastor come. I say, my friend, it is the name of the hospital, not the name of the pastor, that is at stake. But at that point, it's not as if you will force the woman to sign consent, but it is then the duty of the doctor to be able to explain further, to be able to understand, because majority of this is
lack of understanding,
ignorant driven. Do you understand me? Please understand this. Have your baby, because there's a golden time God has provided, that before the wars happen in the aspect of a baby and delivery, God created that very golden time to have this very baby out. I'm privileged enough that in the modern time we are, a lot of gadgets are now available to monitor these things, quite unlike what is obtainable in the past. So why is it my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, not because of witches and wizards? And he said, because you have rejected knowledge. So I reject it most times. Is the reason why people die. Because God said, because you have rejected knowledge, I've rejected you. And when you are rejected by God, who then will save you? So even if there is a condition, then you should, even while praying, you pray in line with that very condition, that God, not just saying, I reject it, it is not my portion. Many have prayed like this are in the grave today. And unfortunately, making mockery of redemption as if God's children are now all bunch of ignorant and bunch of people who can reason.
You said something that is key very quickly here. I mean, like we said, Today FM is particular about sharing this knowledge, and the reason why we reached out to have you on the show this morning. So in case you're listening, it's important that you're able to call in other loved ones, other people who need to hear this information. It's imperative that we disabuse our minds on some of these indoctrinations that we have imbibed over the years. For so many people, and like you mentioned earlier, when you say a Hebrew woman, we just connote it with the fact that you can't deliver naturally. If anything happens that you do that outside that process, then the devil has won in that case. So it's important that we realize this. You said something again about labor earlier, and you said the longer you labor, the more dangerous it is for the baby. I also know a couple of people who are actually, it's a thing of pride really. They said, I was in labor for 3 days, and finally. So I want to understand the effect of a long labor on the baby itself.
Okay, interesting. One thing you should understand is that there's a time, as in a global scale, labor ought to last for 20 hours. All right, 20 hours of labor. Some school of thought say 18 to 24.
Okay.
But it is expected that within 20 hours, this baby should be out. Because the baby has been in a terrible distress. All right. So, some people will now be in labor for hours, days. Some people say I've been in labor for 2 days, 3 days. What are you laboring for? You are just preparing the burial of your baby and the consequences the woman will follow. Now, when you have a prolonged labor, now we take it at the aspect of the baby. Then this very baby, particularly in a situation of cephalopelvic disproportion, that this very baby is trapped over the
birth canal.
Yes, in the bed, and that's why we are working out even the issue of training some of these traditional birth attendants, maternity homes. We cannot be in position to ignore them because gynaes cannot be everywhere in the whole communities. So, but they need to be educated, as it were. That's why what we are carrying this very campaign. At least look at it. If you are delivering a baby and you look at you have waited for labor is not, and also the baby is coming down, but it's still high up there. Sometimes having what is called caput. That's the flesh of the baby will now be protruding, getting long, because the head is trapped. All right. You look at the vulva. The vulva is edematous. The vagina is dry. The water has broken. It is not a Superman thing. It's not something you are trying to show that, oh, I delivered a 4.2 kg baby. No. Nobody, glory be to God for that effort. It is important at that time that this woman, if you are managing where there is no facility, refer this very woman.
Quickly.
Save the life of your patient. The joy of your patient is your joy. Her testimony is your testimony. But we sometimes we say, no, if it is not, I want to show. So the implication of that is that this baby will stay under that condition, can die, because over the time of that stress, the baby may go. All right. Even when you deliver the baby thereafter, that will bring us to what we're actually talking about in terms of the baby outcome after such a trauma. Now, looking at the mom, that's at the point, looking at the mom, when the uterus is contracting, contracting forcefully
trying to push the baby
out, and there's obvious wall obstruction, and what will happen? There's a tendency for that very womb over the time. I have a number of people to rupture. Apart from the womb rupturing, if the woman didn't die and eventually saved the life of the woman, remove the womb as the case may be, or because of one problem, or maybe have become infertility will come. You now start having marital crisis. In a marriage that started nicely, over the time it becomes as if because of issue of childbearing and order, and the woman can be depressed all the way long. Now, let's assume at the end of staying for that long in labor, there's a tendency of when the woman is discharged, you say there's no problem. But because of the head of the baby pressing against the pelvic bone, after 2 weeks, that very portion where the head of the baby press on that very womb can open up. So you see some of them passing out urine through the vagina. That's what is called VVF.
Yes.
You know, some can even open up from the anus. Stool will be coming into the vagina. And that's why if you get to the north, you see a lot of them that have been pushed out because it's more common there because of this early marriage.
So they were not fully formed.
Yes, because of that contracted pelvis are associated with that. So it becomes imperative. A lot of things. The babies that come out of it also, the unfortunate story we will tell
as we proceed. Reason why you need to be with us throughout the show today to learn of these truths. Let me get back to another misconception, okay, concerning this here when it comes to maternal mortality and neonatal deaths. That the reasons why doctors will encourage for the option of a cesarean is because, well, it's more expensive, so to say. So this is an avenue for the doctors to make money.
Yeah, I'm not here to defend, doctors wanting to make money and not make money, all right? One of the messages I got is a little similar to that. He said that she delivered a 4.2 kg in the first pregnancy. Because of that 4.2 kg, she had cesarean section. But the second CS she had, the doctor convinced the husband to do the CS, which he know that is because of money. All right? So it becomes like to the patient, the doctor just wanted to do cesarean section because of money. And that's why I also encourage our colleagues that to this very patient, try to calm down in their own language. By so doing, this thing flows. But when the communication is in the grammar of our doctors, of course, the patient, after you blowing it, may be nodding head in your feet, but he got nothing. All right.
But he's not understanding.
Now, let me be in position, as I said, it's not a function of defense or why the doctor take that. But naturally, I feel no doctor will be in position to say, go for cesarean section when you have option of delivering vaginally. But that version of the version of not being able to tell the other angle of is just that not like money. There are things that can make a doctor make an informed opinion or decision on your behalf. Number one is that if this woman had done cesarean section before, for instance, and because the woman said I delivered but my baby was 3.2, so there's no reason.
I had done 4.2
yes
earlier.
Yes, there's no reason for me to go back again since my baby is small. It may not necessarily be because of the size of the baby. Number one is that if this woman has contracted pelvis, as we said, that the narrow, even if he born 10 times, that very road cannot expand because she has finished growing. She can't grow again. That is the nature of that very place. Secondly, this your doctor understand that if your baby heartbeat is going down, he may tell you, even though you have a chance, but if we continue pushing this, something may happen to this baby. Can't we get this little baby out? Do you understand? It could also look further that the doctor understand if the timing between the first cesarean section and the second is narrow, assuming that it's expected that a woman who has cesarean section at least wait for 1 month, for 1 year, all right? But in a situation the timing is shorter.
So short.
Football, if you switch off football and pump it back, the tendency of breaking out from that switch off point.
Place.
So in that anticipation, because of this narrow time, please better go for cesarean section for safety of to prevent womb rupture. Do you understand? There's additional thing also. These are some of the things your doctor knows, but maybe not communicated to you, and you feel that it's because of just the money, because that is where our mind usually go. The doctor understand that if you have cesarean section, for instance, or you have wound infection in the previous operation, the tendency of that very wound healing not to be as strong as if it has happened
the first time. Yes.
So wound infection compromise the wound integrity. You understand? The healing integrity. So such may make him to say, hey, or if in a womb, when the doctor opens, even if you open straight or open down, the what happening inside is not usually what you know. In a situation where a woman may have something like a fibroid blocking that downside, you may need to cut to bring out the fibroid.
Okay, the fibroid.
To bring out the baby. Sorry, you find that it may cut straight.
Yes.
That is what is called classical incision. It's not advisable anyway. So that classical incision, if that kind of incision that cut across the muscles is called, they are weaker than the normal ones that go down. So at that point, doctor may know some of these things and say, hey, you may need to go for cesarean section. So it's not that because the doctor is just in need of money, but I feel that there's also a communication gap. Do you understand?
Yes.
But the fact remains that if you go to a church and you don't like the pastor, you don't need to be there causing confusion. You people go
to another church.
Issue of going to hospital is a thing of choice and a thing of trust. If you trust your doctor, you should be able to believe in his professional opinion. So if you don't, you go to the one you will trust instead of being in position to be there saying that it's not because of that. And if your problem is poverty dependent, tell God the truth. You don't use demons and use this. Government is also make things available. If you get to teaching hospital, definitely it may not be as expensive as a private. So that we can't afford to use anything as an excuse to continue this kind of death row.
So is this something that can be realized during antenatal classes? Because I think, again, maybe for some women, it's the fact that they haven't had proper antenatal classes and some of these things detected early so that the doctors will say, well, this is, what we're seeing for you. So they can make that decision on time. Because some people believe that it is finally on the day of labor that they get to start making these decisions. Is this something that can be also discovered during antenatal classes? So prior to the date of delivery, you've made up your mind what system you want to use and where you want to do that.
In a number of occasions, you have what is called elective cesarean section. Looking at all some of these areas, if doctor observe it early. All right. Now there's what is called clinical pelvimetry. Big clinical pelvimetry is doctor's assessment of this woman. All right. And if the woman has something like borderline pelvis, he may say, well, let us give this woman a chance, because it's only labor that is the actual determinant. All right. So, but while in the course of that monitoring, a lot of things, several things go wrong, not as anticipated during labor. All right. So it is at that point you may have that emergency cesarean section. But in a number of them, it could be elective, like a woman who had diabetes, hypertension, or this one. Doctor may say, look, we have to plan this your pregnancy, maybe by reason of your age, by reason of that placenta previa, because the placenta previa will be shown early in pregnancy. That's what I mean, from 28 weeks up, but at least it will be in position to show you that before the delivery that there's something like this, So all these are some of the factors that it could be elective, and in a number of occasions it could be something like emergency. But by and by, what God promises us is that we shall be saved in childbearing. He said, "Thou shalt be saved in childbearing." So whatever option,
any mode,
let
can be
it be safety for your baby and also safety for you.
Speaking about it shall be saved during child delivery, what do you say about those who elect to go deliver in their spiritual homes? I know quite a number of women who will go for antenatal classes, and during and unfortunately, this is a true life story. I lost one of a close associate because of this particular incident. Well, attended antenatal classes, did everything, but prior to, I think a day before delivery, moved into her spiritual home, and the rest of us didn't even know this was happening until she died, and then we realized that it was because she didn't end up going to the hospital to deliver, but decided to go to a spiritual home to deliver. How do we balance this out? What's the ignorance at work here?
Yeah, that is, in fact, is the commonest unfortunate event happening in our society today, whereby we have It's just on this very platform of you will come, if you deliver, you will deliver like a Hebrew woman. You will not have this. God will just, that's basically. But as a Christian organization or any organization, setting up a hospital could be said to be a social, responsibility supporting the system. Fine. Be that as it may, it is important while you are doing it, consider the professionalism and the ethic dimension of that particular process you are undertaking. But the contrary is the case today. And as I'm talking to you last week, a woman that came in for delivery, and everything, even she has started dilating. While in the hospital, she left the hospital to go to the church first. And in the course of going to church, she delivered inside the vehicle. So they have to carry her alongside with the placenta, just trying to resuscitate the baby and all the rest. How long can we continue in this kind of mess? Can't we be in position? Everybody just quiet. The women will be dying, nobody will say anything, and we're using devil and demons to cover it. So the issue remains that you don't go into church. If I'm praying for you, prayer does not have distance. There's no distance barrier in prayer. Pray. That is good. God can even go beyond man's ability stop. But wisdom is profitable to give direction. All right. So it is not something when we say the churches should not have a maternity or having a hospital, but we should not use spirituality to cover where we ought to apply knowledge that God has made available to us. It's the commonest dimension. Those that will die, they will use demon. Because you can't sue demon. Okay. They will use demons and the spirits to be in position to excuse all those trash.
So, I mean, there's something you mentioned at the very beginning when you said we have a tendency to spiritualize our problems. Is this something that is, I don't know whether you travel a lot. Is this something you discover also in the Western world? Or is this something that is predominantly ours?
Apparently, I do not know how to ascribe it, but, when a foundation, see, what I'm seeing today in our, say that mechanics do not allow us to know the difference between the madman and the one that is not mad. Mm-hmm. All right? So, very unfortunate that in this time, you have a lot of merchants in this dimension. Why do I use the word merchant? To be able to transform people's mindset is not an easy thing. No. All right? And the Bible says, be ye transformed by renewing your mind. Jesus took a lot of time teaching these very disciples that turn things around for us today. But it is easy for me to consider your own narrative, your traditional narrative. You don't need to be in church to know that somebody is after you. Or if you are not prospering, that somebody is tying you. If you are not married, that somebody prevent you. So many things. We know it even before coming to church. Are you with me? So it is very easy for me to see you and say there's an evil. All right? Yeah. I made a young couple, and I told this when I saw small perplexity and some nonsense kind of thought. And I said, as I'm talking right now, do you have someone that, how many children do you said we only don't have this number? I say your grandmother has a daughter somewhere that was not well treated, and what is happening to that your
grandmother's daughter
is what is happening to you. They stayed there, and I squeezed them, and I was watching them through the camera. They were calling their mom to say there is something, a revelation that just came up now, that there's somebody that is so they now finally found out that there was somebody that, but the mother didn't tell them enough about that. So
they found reason to believe what you told them.
That. So when they came in, they were already saying, you can imagine that kind of a thing. When I say to them, this is what you have suffered over the years. Ignorance is the mother of personal destruction, a voluntary misfortune. And it is worse when you are ignorant of your ignorance. Some people will say, I know. No!
They don't know.
They don't know, and they need to begin to accept it. And that's why most times we will just like what we read this, seeing Hebrew women delivery, just one portion that does not reflect the true
entire
picture of what happened.
Yeah.
Just like somebody now say, go and kill Dr. Richard Okoye, and the person he sent will say, no, this your Dr. Richard is a nice guy. How will I do that? He will not tiptoe and say, doctor, they ask me to come and kill. I beg, make you valid. Then I will jump, and the person that we send will say, I got to know he's still alive. What's going on? The guy will now defend. They will now say, hey, the guy, he get to ditch. In fact, even before I reach in house, he don't vanish. And people will be narrating it that Dr. Okoye now vanishes. That in fact, the guy get to ditch. That's exactly what was played out. That ignorance must come to an end in our time.
This is why I'm asking this question here, because I mean it's sad that we continue to hinge our problems on spiritual issues. Everything has to be coming from a demon, and then we want to use the Bible to explain it away or to wish it away. The Western world, where I would say perhaps they introduced the Bible to us, is this the same things that happens in their hospitals? Do they have people who tell you that their grandmother's grandfather
of course,
has done this to them, and that is why
it is an African narrative.
Aha.
Most of the over there, they will just come on their own as cesarean section, one hand. Unfortunately here in that, we are meant that you have to born all of the 12 disciples of 12 tribes of Israel. So that's basically all of those where those problems come. But over there, people just finish and go away.
We spoke about maternal mortality rates and neonatal deaths and under 5, the rates of under 5 deaths in Nigeria. And this is something that we're hoping that we can check and infuse our minds with what we need to do. You said part of the problems is when you have long labor and the pressure on the baby, because the baby at that period is distressed. Now, a baby who has gone through that lot of distress and is eventually birthed, perhaps maybe she finally succumbed to a CS or whatever happened and the baby's birthed, does that distress at that period affect that child?
Yeah, I think that actually brings us to one of the key words of this. You must have had a case of very brilliant couple. Mm-hmm. Very brilliant, But all of a sudden, they will have a baby, and that baby is not doing well in school.
Yes.
Yeah. You ask him 2 plus 2, he will tell you 22. You begin to wonder what's
happening here.
This cannot be. This cannot be me. But see what.
Look at your wife.
So the fact remains that when it has to do with a baby, a normal baby should have the capacity that when it comes out from the womb into the outside world, it should be able to initiate and sustain spontaneous breathing. All right? Yes. And that very ability to initiate and sustain spontaneous breathing is the most important aspect of the baby doing well in life. Yeah. Because the baby almost will say to be not breathing in the course of struggling. Just like you close somebody's nose over the time, as the person come out, you will hear very that is almost like what is transmitted to the cry of that baby. And what is the advantage of that very cry? Is that very cry that sucks in oxygen into the lungs and expand the lungs and pursue a lot of fluid that was inside it because of the swallowing of amniotic fluid and all that. It moves in and the baby now will be crying. So that particular cry is the life of that very baby. But in a situation a baby is not able to initiate and sustain that spontaneous breathing, you call it what is called birth asphyxia. Asphyxia in the sense that the baby, if it could not cry, or even if it cry, it doesn't sustain the breathing, over the time. And when you see some of the babies, they will just suddenly come up, they look pink, all of a sudden you see the baby turning blue or black. It's not that that very baby is a chameleon. No, something is going wrong. That the baby is not sustaining oxygen going around. And when that happens, the first place of attack is the brain. The brain ought to receive, if the brain after 5 minutes not able to receive a good oxygen, it will start dying. Some of the cells will start having some attacks. All right, after 10 minutes that brain will be dead, as it were. It will become like a vegetable. All right, and that's why you see a number of couple carrying the baby because of cerebral palsy. The baby will not be able to maintain milestone. He will not be able to walk. He will be in the ground. He will not be able to speak. When you talk about Hebrew woman delivery, you see the pains some of these very couple passing through, looking like well-built baby, but that very baby is not able to communicate, do what he ought to do because of a nasty decision or mistake. Don't some way say, I reject what should be good for that very baby. All right. So when you have such attacks, sometimes if there's no pediatrician for resuscitation of the baby, you see sometimes the baby will stay just like that, and after a while the baby may come out. But that is not the end. Because of those pockets of attacks on the brain, and in most cases you have what is called hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy, that very scenario, it will come up that very baby will not be able to perform the milestone, and even if they do, the brain intellectual property will not be as smart
as his peers
as that baby ought to be. So having your baby come out at the right time is also building the future of that your baby, and of course your joy invariably. Do you understand what I mean? So it is something that has to be given ultimate attention, that this very baby should not be allowed to come out asphyxiated. But when you look at it, is that there are a lot of things that can cause a baby to have their asphyxia. It could come from the mother, as we just pointed out right now, issue of prolonged labor, okay, or obstructed labor. Such a baby can. On the other hand, also, anemia. What means when the blood level of the mother is going down, it means that the baby will not be receiving enough oxygen also, so it will eventually affect the baby. And so that if we see some of the baby come out, their head will be smaller. Do you understand? Their baby will be smaller than the normal size. It's not normal. All right. So that's why if a woman that is pregnant is having anemia, that's during pregnancy, low blood level, that woman should be given attention. If there's a need for transfusion, it should be transfused, all right, to enable the oxygen, because it's the blood that has the capacity to carry oxygen down and around. So if there's a level of that hemoglobin low, definitely oxygen will not be reaching to, and that means it will affect the baby. Yeah, it will affect the baby. Or what is called abruptio placenta, maybe the placenta detaching from the wall, such is also a problem. And on that very accord, it's important that all of these indices, and a baby that has a heart problem or had already been compromised in the inside, and you force that very baby through labor, definitely additional stress may make that baby come out without crying as he ought to cry. It becomes a problem. You understand what I mean? So there are a lot of factors also contributing to that. So even the issue that has to do with infection, that neonatal infection, the baby become very sick. When the baby is very sick at that early time, he may not be in position to get what he ought to get at that point. Is also a problem that we must have to avoid. That's why delivery should be in an optimal, as smooth as possible, and in a sterile, environment that is clean, not like a very dirty and infected environment as some people do. And also the final aspect I want to put out in that very ground is what is called connecteros. In this side of the world, when a doctor tells a mother, look, I can see a thing of jaundice. Not that the jaundice have become profound. A thing of jaundice in this very baby. The because some of them will not want to either pay hospital bill or pay for more days, they will carry the baby and say, I'm going, I will put it on the sun and all that.
Under the sun.
Yeah, or something like that. Simply because you don't want to pay money. But do you know that jaundice damages the brain of a baby? Yeah, it could. Those cerebral palsy can also happen when a baby has severe jaundice. Yes. And it affects the brain at that point in time. We call it kernicterus. All right. So such a scenario, that very baby, even when the baby recovers, the tomorrow may not be guaranteed. So these are some of the things, that we just have to make this thing known to people. Not just only keeping it as just like a professional secret or monopoly,
yes,
but it's affecting the entire system. It's affecting everybody, because when a patient leaves the doctor's office uninformed, it can be victim of anything. It can be victim.